Good evening, good evening, good evening. I don't have any music, but I have this picture. We have to educate ourselves so that we don't wind up like, well, it speaks for itself. But I'm getting so far in this book that I want to finish this part so that we can move on. It gets better. Color of the Afro-Asian Intellectual by Edward Shils. Tell you the next title in a second. Let me get this paragraph done, then I will come back tomorrow. So he was talking about the situation. He starts out by saying, where I pick back up, the situation is more complicated and less favorable for the intellectuals of Asia and Africa. They are not members of this broader national community of culture and of the center. They have their own national and regional cultures in which their own dignity is involved and which they do not share with their intellectual conferers of other nationalities and countries. That word is spelled Conferres. Conferers. This cuts them off to some extent from those intellectual conferers and reduces the solidarity of the ties of intellectual affinity. Their own national and regional cultures are furthermore, like all human creations, subject to assessment. The criteria for the assessment of a complex culture of many strands and a long history are more qualified and more ambivalent than are the criteria of accomplishment and worth in the intellectual communities, given the particularistic attachments that individuals have to their own cultures, bound up with them as they are through kinship ties and early experience. Judgments about them are likely to be more relativistic than those about accomplishments in the various fields of modern culture, where the criteria are more consensual. Nonetheless, intellectuals in the new states are affected by the order of worth assigned to their culture by those at the centers of the international intellectual community. They feel this way, although the center's preeminence within any particular field of intellectual work does not qualify them for comprehensive judgment. Excuse me. Cultures are assessed in part on grounds of their modernity, since the criteria of intellectual worth being so vital to modernity, from such a large ingredient in the criteria of national worth, there is a tendency. No, wait a minute. Cultures are assessed in part on grounds of their modernity, since the criteria of intellectual worth being so vital to modernity form such a large ingredient in the criteria of national worth. There is a tendency for national cultures as a whole to be ranked very roughly and approximately in accordance with the level of intellectual eminence. So I'll be back getting to the end of this chapter. I'll be back.